Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630, WMAL.
7:07 on a Tuesday morning here in D.C. Coming up about half hour from now, Congressman Fred Upton from Michigan will join us with the latest on Solyndra with him and where that investigation is going. Larry Kudlow from CNBC on the show at 8:36 this morning. We'll get Larry's take on where the economy is headed and what's the latest with Bank of America. Right now, though, joining us on the phone, J. Christian Adams, former United States Department of Justice official and author of the new book, Injustice, Exposing the Racial Agenda of the Obama Justice Department. It's good to have you on the show. That's a provocative book title of The Racial Agenda of the Obama Justice Department. Explain.
Well, tell them you like it. Listen, this Justice Department is making decisions over and over and over again using race in ways that most Americans would completely disagree with. And until this book, nobody knew about it.
All right, let's get into some details. So what are some ways that they're actually using race?
Well, across the country, for example, they're defying Supreme Court opinions and enforcing and bringing lawsuits to force police departments and fire departments like New York City, like Dayton, Ohio, to hire minority applicants that have actually failed the entrance exams. I mean, flat-out Fs. We're not even talking gentleman Ds. One of the political appointees responsible for this policy is the same woman, Loretta King, who spiked the new Black Panther case. I mean, there's another one, the new Black Panther case, the one I worked on. This was a case where they said that they had hostility toward bringing these sorts of cases to protect white victims. You have another case in Texas where the department allowed an illegal election to take place, and I detailed this in Injustice. They allowed an illegal election to take place because they just wanted to see the race of the candidate who was going to win before they decided to take any action. So over and over and over again, I detail instance after instance in Injustice of using race to make decisions. Is
this being led by Eric Holder, or is it somebody else within the administration that's kind of, pushing this forward?
It's both. I mean, you have an attorney general at the top who I talk about in the very beginning of the book, carries a quote in his wallet that says the black attorney general has common cause with the black criminal, is how he explains the quote. And so you have the attorney general with this policy, but you have bureaucrats, embedded career bureaucrats, SES bureaucrats, political appointees up and down the chain that are in lockstep agreement with this sort of thing.
Mr. Adams, I have a question about the Solyndra case. We now know there's an FBI investigation. The new revelation that came out just this morning is that apparently Eric Holder was given a briefing on the very intimate details of this program in the middle of 2010.
On Fast and Furious.
Did I say Solyndra?
Yeah.
It's Fast and Furious.
So many scandals, so little time.
Excuse me, we have so many to keep up with. I'm sorry, Fast and Furious. We now know that he got a briefing in 2010. We know that the guns were going across the border. We know there are all kinds of things going on there. And I'm just wondering, at this particular point, does it make sense now to say the Holder Justice Department is incapable of investigating this thing fairly and that we need a special prosecutor?
Well, I wouldn't disagree. I mean, listen, Eric Holder was briefed on the new Black Panther case before it got dismissed. And what you're seeing in the Fast and Furious case is the same thing you saw in the new Black Panther case. And that's a Justice Department that is incapable of telling the truth to people like you, to the press, to the Washington Post, to reporters. And unfortunately, most of the time, the people covering justice just swallow the hook. They believe what the Office of Public Affairs is telling them about Fast and Furious. They believe that the Black Panther case was dismissed purportedly because the facts and law didn't support it. But we're seeing over time a pattern emerge where this Justice Department has a serious disconnect with the truth.
But do you think specifically that they are capable of investigating this matter fairly?
Well, if it goes to the top, as it appears that it does, The answer is obviously no.
All right, so would you be in favor of that? Would you recommend that as somebody who used to serve there?
It wouldn't hurt. I mean, you always have to have people who are objective and fair, and as I detail in the book, you right now have a Justice Department political apparatus that is neither objective nor fair.
What do you think, in your mind, from your experience, what's sort of driving this agenda? Is it an overzealous desire to help minorities, or is there's something more sinister here? What is the motivation behind this?
Well, that's a great question. And in the book Injustice, I detail sort of the 30 or 40 year evolution, or maybe you could say devolution, of the civil rights industry. It started out as a very, very noble cause that every American morally was a part of in one way or another, or at least 90% of them. And what you see, though, unfortunately, is sort of this creeping in of a sort of a corrupt racial entitlement theory in the last couple decades, maybe 20 years. And the people who are at the department now are part and parcel of this devolution of what civil rights really means.
You mentioned also that some of the more bizarre parts of the Department of Justice's agenda, some weird things they're working on. What are some of the odd things that they make priorities?
Yeah, well, in New York, the Civil Rights Division, which of course is the epicenter of this problem, I mean, the whole department has become politicized, but the Civil Rights Division has become radicalized. And the case they brought in New York, for example, against the school district, to force them to accommodate children who want to come to school dressed as transvestites. I mean, high heels, pink wigs. You have cases where they're forcing school districts also to allow teachers to take 3-week pilgrimages to Mecca. They sued an Illinois school district to force them to allow a teacher right in the middle of exams to go to Mecca for 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. I mean, this does not have a basis in the law, but this is an agenda. This is a crusade, and this Justice Department is full speed ahead.
There are some new pictures on biggovernment.com, Andrew Breitbart's website, that show apparently the president marching with members of the new Black Panther Party in 2007. I'm just curious if you've seen those pictures, and if they are accurate. Does it mean anything to you specifically that there are actually pictures of the president marching with members of the new Black Panther Party?
Yeah, I discussed this in Chapter 4 of Injustice, and this is all around Selma, Alabama. And there's actually another picture that's published in the book that you could see that Andrew Breitbart doesn't have. And it has the Black Panthers behind Obama raising their fists in a Black Power salute, including one of the defendants, by the way, in the voter intimidation case that got dismissed. And this goes back to March 7th, 2007, where the president, after being criticized on 60 Minutes for not being authentically black the Sunday before, actually appeared in Selma, and the Black Panthers came down there and said they were there to support him, and then they both spoke from the same podium and then proceeded on a march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in a civil rights commemoration. So, yeah, I mean, the photos are authentic. I mean, I've seen them. It happened, and I discuss it in Injustice.
All right. It's good to have you on the program again. J. Christian Adams, former Justice Department official and author of the new book, Injustice, Exposing the Racial Agenda of the Obama Justice Department. Good luck with the book.
Thank you, sir.